Hello there, lovely people, it's Alex from Nintendo Life here, and once again I'm doing the whole top-down kind of view, this whole sort of ashen style of some have called it, which is pretty fair enough to be honest. And today we're going to be looking at this. Well, incidentally, before we get into it, I do want to apologise for the quality of the audio. It may well be quite echoey. Maybe it won't be. Who knows? I won't know until I edit this. Anyway, we're going to be looking at this, or more specifically, what is inside this box, which is already out of its box, but this is the Game Devil Switch Trident Pro S Controller Wireless, which is a very catchy name. As far as I know, this is only available in Europe right now. It's not currently available in North America, but that could well change. Only, you know, research would tell, but I didn't have time. I've got too much to do. Anyway, so here is the controller itself. Now, the immediate thing you might notice is it looks an awful lot like a PS4 controller, and I think that is clearly where the inspiration has come from. You know, it's got the dual analog down here, and just, you know, sort of also the triggers, but we'll come onto the triggers in a minute. The whole thing is very PS4, and that's not a bad thing per se. For me personally, I prefer the old sort of arguably Xbox layout where you got this stick up here and the D-pad down here, the D-pad, that goes down there. But apart from that, you know, sort of, well, you know, if this is your style of thing, then fair enough, you know, I'm not here to judge. So the basic idea of this thing is that it is kind of like a Switch Pro controller competitor. I mean, you know, sort of it's got all the buttons and everything, and it's obviously wireless. I mean, it's got a charging port at the top, but I could not get it to work wired. I don't know whether that'll be something that anybody really cares about, but I thought it was worth mentioning nonetheless, because you never know. And yeah, you know, sort of as in terms of the actual feel of the controller, it's got a pretty nice feel to it. It's, you know, pretty good finish, and overall just feels, you know, pretty high quality. Not quite as high quality as the Pro controller, but then again, this is cheaper than the Pro controller. But it also does not have NFC, so you can't use Amiibo with it, and it also does not have any kind of gyroscope or motion or anything like that. It is just the controller itself. That may be important to you. It is to me. I really like motion in there, but it doesn't advertise itself as having motion, so, you know, you can't argue with that. The thing that I've tried this out numerous times on numerous games, things like Breath of the Wild and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and to be honest, overall, it feels really good. I mean, there are a few little things I noticed when calibrating, actually, that for some reason the control sticks have a tendency to stick on one axis. You can move this back and forth like that, and it'll actually only stay. It won't move the axis back and forth. In fact, let's have some footage showing just that. I hope that was clear enough. But anyway, there's also another feature that this controller has, and that is this button here, which says T. Can you see that? I hope you can, because I can on the viewfinder, so that should be good enough. And that is the turbo button. So if you hold the button down, press turbo, it will then turboize that button, I suppose is the word, where instead of just holding a button down, you will hold it down, but the game will think it's going really, really quickly, and it's far beyond anything you could do, you know, actually yourself using your thumbs. While we're talking of buttons, actually, you might notice some weird things going on here. There's quite a lot of reflection. That's better. Let's have a look at them that way. So you've got your A and your Y, and they look exactly as you'd expect, but the B and X buttons, they're kind of weird. They've gone for this sort of trident look, this sort of devil prong thing, and there's like sort of arrows here. I think, well, I know why they've gone with it, because they are called... That's the wrong side. They're called Game Devil, so they're going for the whole devil vibe. Get out of shot. But the main issue is that this makes them kind of, I mean, they just don't look right. They look out of place. I mean, the A and the Y, they look just like an A and a Y, and then all of a sudden you've got these two buttons, and that is, I mean, you can kind of tell it's a B, but it looks more like an E. I mean, it really does look more like an E. That's obviously an X though. But it's not a big deal, because I mean, how often are you actually going to be looking down at the controller? I mean, I just felt I should point it out, because it's just a weird thing. I don't know why they thought that was a good idea. But apart from that, yeah, it's, well, okay, let's talk about the triggers. The triggers are fine, they feel nice and comfortable, but they're analog. And there's no reason for them to be analog. The Switch does not support analog, you know, triggers at all. So why are they here? It's absolutely infuriating, because it means that the movements are less precise. You have to make it about halfway before it makes a button input. And that just feels like an oversight. I'm guessing maybe they just got some bulk parts and they just so happen to be analog, and they just coded it so that it would go through as a single button press. I don't know. But wait, because this thing has another trick up its sleeve, and this, in I'm sure many people's eyes, will redeem it as a very, very worthwhile controller. And let me show you what that is. It's all this. These are replaceable D-pads, and for some reason you get a spare of every single one. There are three kinds. You've got the standard D-pad, which you can see here and what is currently on the device, because that's kind of the default. You've got this one as well, which I just knocked across the table for a good laugh, and it's, I don't know, I suppose it's a bit more like a Mega Drive controller. If you're into that, I don't know why you'd be into a Mega Drive controller D-pad, because, well, I think they're awful. You go over there now. And then you've also got this, which as far as I know was invented by Microsoft, or probably nicked from somewhere else. And it's one of these sort of strange ones, but it's perfect, absolutely perfect for fighting games like Street Fighter and stuff like that, where you need to do half circles and, you know, quarter circles and things like that. And you just change them, you just rip this bit off, and this may take some time. No, I'm quite practiced at it now. And you just slide, you know, your one of choice on top, and it just works straight away. Just like that. I mean, it is genuinely fantastic, and I've played Street Fighter with this, and it was, well, I'm not brilliant at Street Fighter, but let's just say I actually managed to do really rather well with this, so I was rather chuffed. It does give you a significant advantage because it's just so much smoother, particularly compared to the standard Pro controller that comes with the Switch, that you can get for the Switch, which we have here for comparison. Now, this controller, the Game Devil one, is slightly larger. But, you know, I mean, it's not a huge deal. I mean, personally, I do think that the Pro controller, the Switch Pro controller, is slightly more comfortable. That is just a preference thing. You may find this one more comfortable. You won't know until you really get your hands on it. But overall, I'd say that this controller, it has its specific uses, but if you have specific needs for your Switch Pro controller, then this is something you could well look into. If you don't want motion controls and you play a lot of Street Fighter, this is almost worth it in itself, to be honest. It really is that welcome. But now we need to get onto price. Now this controller, in fact no, let's do it the other way round. The Switch Pro controller retails for about £60 or about $70. I can't remember off the top of my head. All I know is that it's ruddy expensive, and this one here, this retails for just about roughly £35 to £40, so it is a fair bit cheaper. But you are making several sacrifices in that regard. For example, it doesn't have the NFC, it doesn't have motion controls. It all depends on your preference. I mean, maybe if you're a long-time PlayStation fan and you can't quite get the hang of these sticks being up here on the Pro controller, as I'm about to show you again because it just happens to be a hand. If you can't get used to that, this would be a great segue into it. Because, you know, it's just like the PS4 controller, basically. It's got those grippy bits like the PS4 controller. Sort of. So if you're looking at this and you're thinking, I could do with getting me one of those, you can check the link in the description to pick one up for yourself. As I said before at the start of the video, I do not believe this is currently available in North America. However, I will put a link to the North American sale thing if one turns up. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, then why don't you replace that subscribe button with something slightly more ergonomic and useful in Street Fighter 2? And be sure to check out NintendoLife.com for all sorts of lovely Nintendo-related content. Thank you again for watching. Bye-bye.